is I've been showing them some very simple things to do. Just it. Very simple. I'll even take like snapshots if I see something that they've put out on TikTok or I see something they put out on Instagram, and I'll say, hey, that one. And I'll take a screenshot of it. I says, run ads to that. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. So, Rob, the big question is, what the hell do you do for your business? For your business. Because you had mentioned off camera that in your research, you found that there's really only two things, well, maybe three, important to the business. That's what I want us to talk about today. I think people need to hear this. I think they're going to be excited by this. I certainly am because it made me think, yeah, what the hell do I do for my business? But
Yep, had the
let's
same
jump in
effect
right
when I read
there.
it. Yeah. No, it was a phenomenal kind of eye-opening moment for me, like being able to distill it down to that simple of a consideration. So again, not my idea. Amazing business owner and entrepreneur. Those of you all who follow Alex Hormozi, you know the drill. He's I was watching a video of his and he was saying there's basically two things that you need to be watching, need to be focusing on, need to be questioning, need to be tracking in your business. Whatever metrics you measure should be in some way somehow related to these two metrics, and they are number one, the number of new customers that you bring into the business every day,
So new
and number
customers.
two, right? So new customers or customer acquisition, and number two, the lifetime value of those customers, right? And when we're Randy and I were talking about the three of it, lifetime value is actually a combination of two different things. Number one is customer retention, because the longer you retain a customer and they're buying from you, then the lifetime value goes up. But number two, it's order value and maximizing their order value every time that they buy from you, maximizing the level at which they buy. So you could have a client that buys something from you every month at $1. That means that in a year that person is worth $12. But if you can maximize that and just get it to $10, now in a year that person is worth $120, and you just 10x your business without getting any new customers. Um, and so the lifetime value of a customer is amazing. And the reason why those two are what we pay attention to is because that then tells you what money you can spend to go get a new customer.
We'll get more of them. Yeah.
Right. And as long as you're spending less money to get customers than they're spending with you while they're with you, you now have a business. The minute you start spending more money to get and retain customers than they spend when they're with you, you have a charity.
That's so funny. I was listening to a guy, Mark Ling, and he, serial entrepreneur, very smart guy. He's been doing this for a long time, putting out online products, the whole thing, right? And he's kind of a heavyweight in our industry here because he does so much and he does them so well, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
talked about that same thing. He says this is really about that, cost to acquire, right?
Mm-hmm.
CAC, cost to acquire a customer, versus everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how much is it costing you now? What I'm excited about is, especially in the business that I'm in creating things online, because the cost to do that now and now launch acquisition systems has reduced significantly. Before it was like, oh, I got to go get a whole bunch of salespeople. Not so much anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's some apps out there right now, and there's some AI agents that are just jamming. I can't wait to dive in, both feet and thumbs, arms, legs, the whole thing, man. I'm just boom, diving in because now we can create scenarios where they are out acquiring customers for us automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So cost to acquire goes way down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we also realize that how long that customer, it's like a relationship, right? Either you got the long-term relationship ability, right? Or you look at somebody and go, oh, I think they're a long-termer. Or you going, they're going to be a great date. I'm going to have fun. but it ain't gonna last. That's not who I'm taking
Mm-hmm.
home to mama, kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing, right? So when we're thinking about that in our businesses, imagine now that old school business owner who has this idea that you have to acquire a customer a particular way, and that's it. You got to get, a 5,000 person sales army just to go out and do this thing versus these new school tools. I like to call it old school versus new school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about like a Jay Abraham, right? Smart guy, older dude, and his information. When I hear Alex Hormozi, I hear shades of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I hear shades of what Jay Abraham used to talk about. That there's only a couple of ways to make more money in your business, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one of those is, like you said earlier, how much are they buying now? How much can you get them to buy? What does that look like?
Yeah,
Right? Do we have to introduce a
exactly.
new product? Because, they got a shelf life. That's what Mark Ling says. He says, you got to calculate how long they're going to be with you. He says, sometimes it's only 3 months. So
Mm-hmm.
that means your acquisition wheel has to constantly be turning. And that's what I'm seriously curious about right now is when we hear this idea, Rob, that they're going to be one person billion-dollar companies. And I'm thinking, man, how are they going to acquire customers? Right? Is it on the strength of, and I need to hear your opinion on this, is it going to
Mm-hmm.
be on the strength of the name of whatever it is you have? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, get this. I'm watching I was on this YouTube channel, man. I love these guys. They always come up with good ideas. So the person that was on there said that this guy came out with a business that
Mm-hmm.
was so interesting that it immediately went what they call hockey stick.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about that. I was like, wait a minute, that's not a new idea. And they were like, nope. He just arranged it in a way that when people heard the idea, they were like, "Oh, I want to do that." But he also was taking
Mm-hmm.
advantage of a certain trend, and this is like it. I kid you not, it is in the people are lonely space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People don't always want to date you necessarily, but they will go
Mm-hmm.
out to dinner with you.
Right.
And he
Companionship.
created a company that is going bananas right now. We're talking about like $10 million I think it's at $10 million a year now, and he started it not too long ago. So within
Mm-hmm.
maybe a year or two, and it's in the we're just gonna have people show up at a spot and eat together.
Yeah. And it makes perfect sense, though. Myron Golden talks about this all the time. So many people get stuck, and we talk about cost of customer acquisition. This is the thing that I'm still, working to fix in my business. I'm starting to see the transformation of this, and this is our big push for 2025, right? And on is when you can, instead of trying to find people to buy what you have, you can find people who are already looking for what you have and make it easier for them to get to you, make it easier for them to find you. And, you know, um, one of the things that does that, and again, this is in that same video I was telling you about from Alex Hormozi, he was talking about branding. The power of brand is when you have a really good brand, people are willing to buy what it is that you're selling without knowing what it is that you're selling. And he tells the story about how he had launched something. It was another product that he had launched when he was doing his gym launch stuff. And he had sent out the email and he did a webinar on it and everything. And people missed the webinar, but they bought and they were just like, I don't know what it is, but here's my credit card. Go ahead and sign me up.
I know it's gonna be
And
good.
it blew his mind, but he was like, because of the fact that he had built a brand where when they spent money with him, the amount of money that they made from the money that they spent with him was so astronomically different. His brand was, I don't care what you're offering, I know it's going to be full of value. And when you can get to that point, right? And it doesn't even have to be great value, right? Like People go to McDonald's and find McDonald's everywhere in the world. McDonald's doesn't have the best food in the world. But the thing that McDonald's did earlier than everybody else was they created a sense of certainty that you knew when you went to McDonald's what you were
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah.
and everywhere else was uncertain.
I like
And
that.
just that fact made it so that people were like, that might be better, but I know this is going to be good enough.
So that makes me curious then. So for our listeners, y'all, if y'all listening out there right now and you're saying, okay, that sounds good, but how do I do it? We've seen clues. Gary Vee has been talking about this forever. So get this. So Gary Vee has been talking about this forever. He's on the milk crates and he's like, hey, I'm standing up here, I'm telling you, you got to do this, right? I see a guy I think he's going to become a part of the Mind Valley, whatever. So he's doing a commercial. And basically he just regurgitated. I was a little upset. The very thing that Gary Vee has been telling us for 10 years. I mean, almost, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, but yet, guess what? Now he's become an expert at this because he has, I think, just like Gary Vee says, I know that I can say this to 900 people, and I know that 850 of them are not going to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
this guy is up there banging on about creating content. He says,
Mm-hmm.
if you do just this, you will never have a need for money. And he says, here are the social, and he had like a framework, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait a minute, that framework ain't new. That's what Gary Vee says. And guess who else says that? Alex Hormozi says that. And guess who said it to Alex Hormozi that got him fired up? Grant Cardone.
Russell. Oh, yep. And
And
guess who
then
said it
Russell
to Grant
Brunson.
Cardone? Russell Brunson. Yep.
So if you just do this, even as I was listening to something he said recently, and he says his wife told him, you need to go out there and make more content. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been watching this content, and a lot of it's almost like he's talking to his team.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of smart. So he'll use a Twitter post that maybe went viral. Who's been telling us that? Gary Vee. He
Mm-hmm.
says, take what works, pour gas on it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been literally using some of these same things with my clients. Is I've been showing them some very simple things to do. Just it. Very simple. I'll even take like snapshots if I see something that they've put out on TikTok or I see something they put out on Instagram. And I'll say, hey, that one. And I'll take a screenshot of it. I says, run ads to that. Right. And the ones who have done it, I'm getting all kinds of people calling me up saying, oh my gosh, it worked. I'm saying because it works. So when we
Mm-hmm.
think about the customer acquisition and then the lifetime value, right? Creating a flywheel, where did that come from? Well, HubSpot's been talking
Jim
about that.
Collins. Yep.
You know, right? It keeps
Yep.
going back to the same thing. If you want to acquire, create a flywheel, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that when they get into your business, you delight them so well, right? One of the co-founders of HubSpot talked about that. I think it's Brian Holiday or something like that. He said that once in, right, it's no longer a funnel, it's a flywheel because you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly coming out with things. And to that point, I've got this shorts maker, right? It makes shorts and stuff like that. I'm sending these guys emails saying, I'm very happy with your company
Mm-hmm.
because every other month you're coming up with something that just delights me. I kid you not. All of it don't hit, right? So like one that they had, it's like, we'll make your thumbnails from the content. They don't do a good job of that. So I tell them, that's not good. I said, but that what you just introduced, right? It used to just be shorts. Now it's clips. Then I saw something on there the other day that was brand new. And I was like, this is awesome. Delighting the customer. I says,
Mm-hmm.
because of this, for another month, am not going over to Opus Pro. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
literally letting them know how their stuff is working. I got another email, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about this in one of the courses I have, how to turn ordinary inbox emails into cash in your pockets, blah, blah, blah. And I got an email from a dude who says he was reviving one of his email lists, right? It was really good. And then he broke
Hmm.
down how it could go. He says, I think we can get this to $20,000 a month from like $1,300 a month. I sent him an email saying, hey man, this is a good email. I appreciate it. Keep it up. Now, I have never bought from this guy, but I'm buying
Hmm.
in on reading anything he puts out to your brand point
Hmm.
because it was good and he breaks it down. It looks doable. But here is the question, everybody. As you're listening to this, I want you to, you know, like what you're hearing, comment on what you're hearing, and send it to somebody that you know needs to hear it too.
Hmm.
Right. And if you are here and you aren't a subscriber, well, jump on in because the water's fine. But right, I'm so curious, what then is stopping us from
Yes.
creating the new customer acquisitions,
Hmm.
the flywheels, doing the things in it that retains them,
Right.
and then once in increasing the order value of that
Yeah.
customer.
So I think, and I'm guilty of this as well, but I think that so many of us as entrepreneurs are fond of new shiny thing syndrome.
Oh, I got that
And
bad.
right. And what happens is if we don't ask ourselves first, right? Remember we talked about those three questions that everybody in your business needs to be asking themselves. What
Oh
do you
yeah, that was
do?
good.
What do we do as an organization? Like how do we bring value to the customer? And then how does what you do impact what we do? Specifically, how does what you do either get us more customers or increase lifetime value of customers? And in that situation, we as owners have to first start there with ourselves. And we can't say what we do in, these big, flowery, cloudy, uh, abstract ways. Well, we help people to feel better about themselves and understand that they have an amazing
Yeah.
idea and
Yeah.
mindset. No, no, no. What do you do every day that is part of this business, right? If you're an accountant, I tabulate expenses and income
Uh-huh.
to ensure that we are on in alignment with our pathway, right? Like the specific things you do. I know for me as a business owner, so often there's things that I'm doing that I don't know how they connect to certain things. And so, for example, like I write social media. And oftentimes we do social media stuff because we think that social media will get us something, or we think
Mhm.
that, right? But we never do anything to test that. And
It's
I've
specifically
spent
you. How do you?
right. And one of the things that we get, wary of is remember it was Billy Jean from Billy Jean is marketing, right?
Yeah.
He used
I've
to
been
say
seeing
this, and
him
it
a
was
lot lately.
right. He used to say this and it was so like obvious that it felt like it was like, how did I never think that? It's so obvious. He would say, if your income is directly related to how many offers you put out. And it was like, it's like if you're not asking people to buy, it's not like they're just gonna walk up to you and be like, here, take my money.
Here's some
Like
money.
that's
What
not
you
how it
got?
works. Right. And so often we do all this social media posting, we do all these emails, we do all this stuff, and we don't in any way let people know what we have to buy. And I think this is the thing, and a lot of people didn't catch this. Alex Hormozi was real slick with it. He would jump on when he was first starting acquisition.com and he would say, I have nothing to sell you.
Goodness.
Right.
You're like, oh,
Yeah. Right. There's nothing I have to sell you on this. Now, here's the key that a lot of people didn't catch. Subliminally, would tell you what he had to sell you. He would just tell you what he had to sell you in his introduction to who he was and what he did.
yes, yes.
But he had disarmed you because he said, I have nothing to sell you on this. I don't want to sell you anything. I want to give you value so that eventually I can sell you something. To pay attention. He walked you down the pathway and he told you what he wanted to sell you. He just postponed the sale after this interaction.
Yeah.
And he started it off with, I
Brilliant.
have nothing to sell you in this interaction. So he primed you right? And Tony Robbins talks a lot about this, about priming. He primed you to ask him to buy something from him later.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people thought was he didn't offer anything. That's not true. He offered something. He just didn't offer it right now.
Yeah. He just didn't ask you to buy.
Exactly. What he did is he made it easier for you, if you were his client, to know where to find him.
See that part. I love that because that becomes to our number one question. What's your customer acquisition like?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it got me thinking because I was a big on creating doorways. Now I coach this stuff hard. I
Mm-hmm.
call it setting traps. I got one client who last last week said, I've had my best month ever. She says, when you were telling me to set more traps, she says, I didn't understand what you were talking about. Literally. I didn't understand. She said, I just didn't she said, I didn't understand it. I didn't quite know how to do it. You walked me
Mm-hmm.
through it in our coaching sessions, and I just did it. And she says, and
Mm-hmm.
Randy, those traps are going off. And
Mm-hmm.
now, let me break that down a little bit, right? These money traps, doorways, ends. I kind of use it different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and she was in a space that was absolutely going bananas in terms of search, what people were searching for. Now that's going to change
Mm-hmm.
coming up because we got answer engines instead of search engines. So
Mm-hmm.
realizing what's happening is going to get tougher. But she starts setting traps because people are already
Mm-hmm.
coming in into
Mm-hmm.
this space heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, they start going off, and she's gotten to where she's fulfilling at such a level. Now you have to systematize that, and that's why I start telling her. I says, now you've set the traps, but you don't want what's in it to spoil because you can't get to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then that leads them into some of the other stuff that I teach inside of the academy is now automated in a way that it comes right to them. And she's doing that, and that's going well. So I had a coaching call this week with a guy that is in the yeah, he sells websites. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
I know that game is like, that's the wrong thing, right? But ladders up against the wrong wall, But like most entrepreneurs, we could be kind of hard headed, but that's fine. But by
Mm-hmm.
the time I
Mm-hmm.
got done with him, Rob, he was seeing what he did in a different light. So I talked to him about breaking out what you do. He says, "Man, they're just not buying the big." I says, "Because they had determined that that's super complicated. It's going to be a hassle. They're the bottleneck. They don't get you the material in time. I know this space." I said, "So sell them something small, right?" I
Yep.
says, just sell them. I said, it kind of comes down to they don't want the drill, right?
They
We've
want
heard
the
this
whole.
over and over. They
Yeah.
want the whole. So then you show them this thing makes holes, big ones. What kind of hole do you want? And then let them tell you, go make that. Now, eventually they're going to come back and says, hey, I really like that. I'd like to make a bigger hole now. And that's when you
Yeah.
sell them the bigger.
And even in that, I think I've seen some people do this, and I think it's so phenomenal. It's one of the things that I'm trying, like I said, this is the year of figuring this out in my business to take it to where I feel like where we can make our business truly, exponentially grow, right? But there are people that I see that they're very good at this game, where they basically say, "Here's where you are, here's what you want, here's this small thing that I'm going to sell you." And here's what you're going to need after you get what you want from the thing that I'm going to sell you. And
Yeah.
here's the other
Yeah.
things you're going to need to get where you actually ultimately want to go. Well, we have a program that gives you all of that and it does all of that for you if you want to do it. And it's at this price. It's expensive, but compared to what you're going to have to spend to do it yourself, it's a fraction of the cost. Like,
Right.
but the process that they go through to do that is so powerful. The ones that do it well, because it's not it's not buy all this stuff from me. It's here's the information that you need to know to do everything that you want to do. And
That why?
it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be all of these steps. And if you want to
Yeah,
do it on your own, be my guest. More power to you.
yeah,
Here's this little thing that helps
yeah.
you along your way. And it's a dramatic value add. But if you're part of that group that doesn't want to do that yourself,
Would you like some help?
would you like some help?
Done
And
with you?
the people that can do right, done with you, done for you, the people that
Yeah,
can do that well, that understand the processing and break it down that well, but more than just understand the process, more than just understand the SOPs, understand the pain points at each step of the process and the reason why. Right, it's almost reverse psychology because the person,
yeah,
like you said, does not want to become a hole driller. They want holes
yeah.
to put whatever they need to put through the holes. And once you articulate, oh, drilling a hole is much more, drilling a hole to do what you're trying to do is much more than just drilling a hole. You got to know what
Right,
size of the hole you want. You want to make sure that you have the right drill bit so it doesn't run out halfway
right.
through the material. You want to make sure you got to do this, you got to do this. And all of the things that they don't have expertise in, that they didn't even know were necessary to do what they needed to do, when you can articulate that well, and it's a dance. But the people that I've seen do it well, I'm always just in awe. I'm like, wow. It's like
Yeah.
watching, an amazing play in football where the quarterback puts the ball right in the spot between the safety and the cornerback, and the catch happens, and
And
the
the
wide
guy's
receiver
still
doesn't get
running, and it's like, oh my God, that
right.
was awesome.
Exactly. It's just amazing. You're like, that is flawless execution.
Yeah. And that wraps it all the way back around to the three things that everybody should be doing in their business that you
Yeah.
talked about:
Mhm.
acquiring,
Every day. How
retaining,
many customers are you acquiring?
and increasing,
Yes.
right? So that part. I mean, just now intellectually, yeah, I should be doing this. So now somebody comes along and says, I'm going to do one part of that. And we get excited and we buy that. And Alex Hormozi talked about this a lot too. He says, well, the reason it didn't work is that you got a skill gap. I
Mhm.
figured that out. I was really good at one thing, but I didn't know how to do the rest. All right.
Yep.
So this is why this conversation and thinking about all of this stuff, what do you do in your business, for your business? What do we do out there in the marketplace? Da, da, da. Where do we fit?
Mhm.
And why I'm extraordinarily excited about AI and AI agents, because now it allows us to create stuff really, really quickly, automate
Mhm.
it very, very cheaply, and then kind of see if you can go out there and make a good book of business. That crazy idea you had. That's what I'm gonna. You asked me a question off camera. It's like, well, what's your process? What do you do? All I'm doing now is gonna go through ideas. I'm gonna get a virtual assistant or three, right? And the moment I make a dime over cost, and I'm going to be a part of that cost, I'm going to put my, here's what I need to do.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
dime over cost, then it's pour the gas to it moment. And I'm
Yep.
literally, for I think all I want to do for the rest of my life is just put the ideas that I have curated that didn't have the mechanism to bring them to life, would have been so much, so many
Mhm.
people. And I was like, oh, I don't want to manage all these people. I got degrees in it, but I don't want to do it. But now I can go literally spin it up, put a VA on it, and or that agent on it, AI agent, that
Mhm.
app on it. And then because it's so good, it could be the thing that is a magnet to people.
Mhm. Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So, because a
I
lot of
know
stuff that
exactly.
I
Yeah.
came up with, it was early. I'll give you the one that we were talking about not too long ago. Um, Your Goal Mate is one
Mhm.
that I'm rolling out, right? Your Goal Mate. Now I was like, what is this? What is it, like a matching service? But now, before it was like I was gonna have to, get this complicated algorithm, and I gotta like, now you can set that up and it could run. And all it
Mhm.
does is match you up with somebody that keeps you accountable, blah, 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 blah. Which is
Mhm.
right now. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm not being held accountable. I don't have that mechanism. And then get this, the other day, I see a commercial on the very kind of business that I'm talking about. A
Yep.
little commercial guy says, you know why I'm so successful? It's because I have an
Hmm.
accountability partner. And I was like, what? Right? That's that part.
Yep.
So now the ground is being tilled by another service, which is great. That's that competition means that people are buying in that area. Don't be afraid of it.
Exactly. Right.
So now I'm
They're
like, well, I
creating
can
the
spin
market.
this up and go, we just put people together
Yep.
that want
Lookalike
to be held
audience.
accountable.
Yep.
But it's not new. People have familiarity with it. Well, isn't that like a somebody being a spotter in the gym? Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Isn't that like somebody being, yeah. So they're not unfamiliar with it. That part,
Hmm.
we could just
Hmm.
automate it. We can put it in a way that acquires customer. This is
That's
one I
it.
want us to go back to, and we'll wrap up. But I was revisiting some Dan Priestley stuff,
Hmm.
right? And I'm looking at, and I'm like, dude, this is all he had been talking about too. Everything starts with customer acquisition,
Hmm.
right? He had challenged his team. They wanted him to start a new something. He was like, I got $3 million companies now. They're doing fine. And he said to them, I tell you what, if he told his team this, he says, if you can show that it would work by using this little test, whatever it is, right? And if you can show that we can acquire customers, then I will be the person of influence for the customer and I'll for the company. I was like, this brilliant.
Yep.
Well, then to your question, what does he then do for the business? Well, he's the
Hmm.
person of influence. He's the one that gets
Exactly.
on
He
and
gets
does the
eyeballs.
podcast and does all these things. Alex Hormozi for the company. He's the one that's
Right.
out there.
He drives traffic. That was it. Alex Hormozi was just talking about
That
that.
part.
Like Elon Musk companies don't have a marketing budget. And the reason they don't have a marketing budget is because they have a person of influence who is the most marketable person on earth.
That's right.
He sends
And
out a
the
tweet
ideal is so
and
damn good. It
yeah.
attracts.
And even if it's not, the fact that if Elon talks about it, a billion people are going to see it. You just do the numbers just from right, just from him putting out a tweet. Even
Man.
if you had 0.1% buy, you're still talking about 1,000 buyers just from one tweet.
So then that suggests to me that we should be, as I think about it too, as you put that question to me, I'm thinking all I should do is be out there trying, curating ideas, being the person of influence, and then being the person that promotes them like crazy. Gary Vee has been on this social selling thing. Now, as soon as he said that, I says, dude, that's not new. Over in the Asian countries, right? He was showing some lady who made $2 million in 2 seconds or something. It was some crazy. She popped
Mm-hmm.
up a thing and showed it, and people bought. She showed another thing, and people bought. So wait a
Yep.
minute, they get on. Wait, that's that new? No, Home Shopping
No.
Network,
Yeah. Home
QVC.
Shopping
So we're
Network,
like, what?
QVC.
Shouldn't I be
They was
doing
doing
that?
that with Lululemon or Lululemon or whatever it is, and Lululemon. That's what it was. And what was the other thing that was out there? Like all the little boutiques that pop up on Facebook Lives, and like yeah.
Yeah. Social selling. Let's get it going. Let's ask for the order, like Billie Jean and Myron Golden has been saying, offers,
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. Let's get busy with this stuff, y'all. We'll help you
Mm-hmm.
because we got
Mm-hmm.
some tricks and tips and some techniques, some templates to be able to
Mm-hmm.
help you if you need our help, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna charge because that's what we do. We're going to give massive value through some of the things that we've put out over the years that we've been working within this our company here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just get busy doing these things that they've been telling us to do. Let this be the
Yeah.
year of you saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna just do it."
Yeah. Let
I
this
think
be
it'll
the
change
year
your
of
life.
application.
I think it'll change your life.
I
All
think
right, Rob.
so.
What can we leave people with before we take off for today?
I think that was good. What you just put in right there. Let this be the year of application. Apply. Eric Thomas said this one time. I remember he was like, somebody came up to him and was like, "What books do I need to read this year?" He was like, "Don't read any new books this year. Go back and look at the books that you read last year and apply one thing from each of those books that you read last year. and it'll change your life. And that's I think what is the perfect kind of segue going in as we close out this one.
That's it. Apply, apply, apply. We'll talk to you next video.